the end of the day, black men are not to be seen as really more than your subjects in many respects. So, in other words, what we were told in the '80s is that to be a good black man, you had to make six figures, you needed to have a
Yeah.
six pack, you need to be over 6'2",
Yeah.
you need to go out and conquer the world, you needed to be able to
Ooh.
navigate the streets as well as the boardroom, you need to be able to do all of that, but not necessarily to qualify for a woman, but to qualify for an interview for a woman, right? And and
Context.
and
Context.
women weren't really told they had to do anything for a black man. If anything, he was sort of a guaranteed because you were already spectacular, right? He was an
Oh,
inevitability in some result. So men had to build themselves up to be something,
mm,
but women already. I mean, what really the kind of legacy of where this black man, what is it, the black girl magic idea kind of comes out of is the fantastic nature of black women as it is, whereas men have to build themselves up to qualify. And as long as you
wow.
have that dynamic in place, there's an air of superiority. There's an air
Mm,
of really, a sort of superiority in place where he has to, really reach the levels you tell him to reach, and you may or may not, you know, this is well, I won't go there. I'm say that for another. I'm gonna go somewhere that probably wouldn't. But that being said, if you have this kind of space where women don't have to do anything and men have to build themselves up to be worthy of women, it's not surprising when you see this kind of dynamic of female superiority, especially if family after family is
mm,
female headed, females are making decisions, men are only brought in temporarily to help with reproduction, maybe a little resource, then pushed out and still pulled for resources via family court, but they're not physically present in the same kind of way. So as long as you have that dynamic in place, you're going to have a female superiority framework. So then when someone like yourself comes up and says, well, maybe men aren't all of these bad things, you're going to be attacked by other women because that's not the culture anymore. You don't laud black men. If anything, you make them serve. You expect them to serve, and they fall off as Kevin calls it, the good man tree when when they're available and you're just worthy of them, and that's the end of the discussion. It's really this kind of strange dynamic.
yeah.
And so when men start looking for women from other places, that's also met with negativity. This is
Yep.
an anecdote I share a lot, but I was married for about 9 years, in a relationship for
Mhm.
11. And after my wife passed, when I was single again in my mid 30s, and I started, kind of looking at a number of my friends, I'm talking about at least 30 college educated, graduated with degree black men. Only one was with an African American woman. Only
Mm,
one was with a Caucasian woman. Two had completely opted out. They went what we call monk, but there was no name for it.
mm,
They just stopped dealing with women altogether because they'd gone through the divorce mill and they were just done. All the
mm,
rest of my friends and associates had found women from other countries and other cultures. And the majority of those women were black women from other countries and other cultures. And this is actually backed up with the data from the text dataclysms. If you look at that, where they assess attraction, you'll find that black men actually, find black women. I mean, how do I put it? They find white women attractive to the least degree. So, in
mhm.
other words, when they
Yeah.
had the choice, they went out and found black women from other countries. But what they were trying to address was the behavior, which again has been shaped by policy in such a manner where they were considered less than. I call them conky serfs. That's what we're expected to serve as. And the men were
Interesting.
just tired of it. So they just, they broke camp and went another way. And so what we're seeing in the manosphere is really, they're really philosophies and ideas that are being named that have been in practice for a while. I mean, I know brothers who are hardcore black nationalists, activists, scholars, pro-black to the core, but they go find African women, Caribbean women, and when you sit them down, put a drink in them and get them to talk, they'll tell you the same nightmare stories that, many different men can recount about their upbringing and their relationships with women and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the prevailing idea is that they're less than. And that's something that, these men are trying to respond to. And they've tried
Mm,
dialogue, they've tried, argument, they've tried a number of different avenues to get it across that we should actually be able to, work together, so on and so forth. But men's behavior, there can be demands placed on that. Women's behavior in our community, not so much. So
Man, yeah, you hit on so much there. And, I think, growing up, I never really saw, like the black girl magic, the queen, all that kind of different stuff. I didn't
mhm,
necessarily see it as detrimental. I just thought, okay, look, black people have it rough out here. So we're just trying to find ways to work on our self esteem. I mean, the whole queen thing, like I never really fully got because I'm like, there are real responsibilities associated with being a queen. So I'm not gonna
mhm,
just go around calling myself that, knowing that, like, do you even know what that means? But I guess at the time I didn't really see that as a way of kind of creating this separation. But it's like, to your point, we don't see black boy magic, we don't see black men rock, or just like things like that, where we're seeing those things be equally celebrated.
mhm. And you
And
don't
mhm.
you don't see them on television channels that are
No.
fixated on black male attention, right? So the few
Mhm.
black channels we have are, BET and TV1. They're targeted toward black women. And so when you see these kind of ceremonies and celebrations that do highlight black girl magic, they're corporate funded. You don't find that for black males. From
Not at all.
1976 to
Not even.
2018, black men literally have half the degrees black women do. So when
Mhm.
you look at K through 12 education, you look at the performance, you look at the everything from the disciplinary rates to those who are being kicked out of school altogether. When you look at the graduation rates, you look at the college
Mhm.
entrance rates, you're not seeing black boys prioritized. We know that up through eighth grade, only 10% of black boys are literate, 12% are functional in math and science. There are no major programs that are highlighted and funded to target black boys. They obviously aren't going to college in the same kinds of ways. They're not transitioning into white collar labor in the same kinds
Yeah.
of ways.
Yeah.
So they're not celebrated in those kind of ways. They're not identified for philanthropic opportunities, so on and so forth. So the kind of celebration is really, in many ways, buoyed by policy, by practices
Mm.
that primarily target girls. So, for the most part, you where you can see the difference is if you've worked in education. And I've taught elementary, middle school, high school, and
Mhm.
college. And when you
Okay.
see it
Wow.
kind
You've
of go
been the whole
through,
gamut.
yeah, it's you see it from the very bottom. I mean, even preschool, having my son in preschool, I saw the ways that teachers, as young as dealing with boys as young as 4, would find ways to punish them for the same kind of things all the kids would be doing, but black males would get the overarching amount of
Yeah.
attention. You
Yeah.
know, yeah, these things have impact. And we haven't even gotten to the percentage of them put into special ed at a young age and tracked away from college, and really having that having nothing to do with intelligence, but having more to do with what they're labeled as, in terms of behavior. So these kind of
Yeah.
things have lasting, lifelong impact for many black men.
Mm. Ah, that's so deep.